Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
So when I was working on Selena, the series for Netflix, to play the role of Abraham Quintanilla, I put on a specific amount of weight, which I was fine doing, but also realizing it could be difficult to get that weight off. I got back into my physical regimen with James Leha, but I was still having trouble with just those last amounts. And that's when I got to meet Arturo from Laredo Medical Weight Loss Clinic. And just the products that he gave me kind of put me over the edge. I feel great about myself.
Hi, I'm Don McLaughlin. I'm a candidate for House District 80, which consists of Webb County, Uvalde County, Dimmitt County, Zavala County, Frio County, and Atascosa County. I'm also a small businessman, and I know what it takes to run a small business. And for too long, we've had too much government regulation coming into our small business and making it tougher and tougher for us to survive and get by. And that's one of the things I hope to change. Small business is the backbone of the state of Texas, and we need to make sure it thrives and that they have the support they need in government and less government regulation.
Back at you, Gloves Off. I have a great guest, Kelly Manzone, who's a personal trainer, and also she specializes in Indian and Iran tools of strength. Okay, and it's an interesting story. It's something that everybody should get involved with because it develops your whole body. How are we doing this morning? You doing good?
I'm doing great. And thank you for having me on. And I'm sorry, I'm in the corner of the gym right now. It's kind of the only place that I could sneak away, but I'm glad that we have this time to connect.
I want to thank you also because number one, I've been following everybody that has been specializing in this for many years. Okay. That you're one that your ability and what you're showing and the connection with all the different tools, both Indian and Iranian, is magnificent. You know, some people just on certain ones and others, but you have a broad range of the different elements for strength and flexibility, which I call battlefield. But
I've definitely heard that before. I just feel like these ancient practices have so much value and that they have a place in modern times mixed with modern methods. So I that's kind of like what draws me to them. I love history, but like you said before we started, I feel like it fills in kind of like the gaps because you get extra grip work, midline crossing, you get all planes of motion. So you get that unique transverse turn through the shoulders. And I do believe that it creates a more resilient and capable body.
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah. Thanks.
You know, I grew up kind of like a gym rat, and I was inside the pugilistic realm, right, of fighting. And there's certain elements that if you do bodybuilding, it kind of hinders you unless you just want to look good, right? It hinders you if you're going to be in your fighting ability. So there's certain exercises, and these are just perfect for that.
Oh yeah.
These
Especially if you do just linear movement, because it could really open up the lateral lines, and it could improve your overhead press. It could improve your bench press. It could improve even your deadlift because you got a stronger grip.
Absolutely. And in the martial and essence of it, in boxing or savate or Thai boxing or whatever, in the martial aspect of it, it also builds the whole body, and it has a conditioning, how can I say, a length of conditioning. If you get what I mean, you won't tire as quickly.
Yep, and it mimics some of the movements that you perform. Like in India with the Gada, the 10 and 2 is mimicking pulling somebody over the shoulder. So that's why I think a lot of mixed martial arts people or people interested in grappling or various styles of martial arts find these tools really helpful, because you're right, it kind of ties in the whole body. And it fills in a little bit of the gaps that are missing from traditional movements that we just mentioned.
Absolutely. And, they're hard to come by. You basically start and now it's with the internet and everything else, it's a lot easier to get. And you have quite a collection, because I've seen the ones in the back, and
I got stuff everywhere. And my car is full, my porch, it's everywhere.
And it's great, it's awesome, and it's good to see. But let me put it to you this way: how did you get involved?
Well, I've always been interested in history. So I love history and I love historical movement practices. And then I grew up doing a number of activities from gymnastics to dance, and then swim team, track, you name it. So I've always been very open-minded when it comes to movement. When I first started with kettlebells back in 2005, 2006, around that time, it was the communication with the kettlebell, with the hand and the handle of the bell, that just blew my mind open on how a tool, even a dense, compact tool that's heavy, could become a seamless extension of the body. At that time, I was learning kettlebells with Art of Strength through Anthony DeLugio, who had a system with some vintage barbells, vintage dumbbells. And also he had some Indian clubs there that I purchased, and short mace balavas. And that's when I first started and really paying attention to circular training tools in about 2008. I got pregnant shortly after. And then when my son was a toddler, I got very ill with colitis, and I was sick for 3 years. Part of my recovery was diving deeper into these training practices, because not only does it build strength and resilience, but it's also very meditative. And I'm sure you've experienced that yourself. You just kind of get into a flow state of mind. And I was just becoming more intrigued by the history of these tools and how they could be implemented into modern practices. So I just kind of deep dived and I'm continuing to do so. I think this is something that, you could do as a lifelong practice. And, I'll be 45, and I feel immensely lucky and fortunate to be pain-free and to be injury-free. And I do believe that these tools have helped me, especially since I use my body basically to make a living, and I started teaching my own workshops. I think my first workshop was maybe in 2018. So at least 6 years I've been teaching my own Indian club and mace and kettlebell workshops.
That's awesome. I can see where, like you said, it's a meditative state, puts you in a calming state. We do gadas, and we started seeing how we can build gadas that were, from the concrete, and how we can do that. And we got some that kind of end up in the same range, like 8 pounds, 10 pounds, so forth. And we do that in every class when we finish.
That's wonderful.
Them all up, and I said, we're going to do, you can only do 10 right now, put it down, and then you 20, and by the end of the day we're going to do 60, so everybody's doing it. And
that's fantastic.
That's our cool down, is with a gada.
I think that's important to stress too, is that that's what a question that I get often a lot is how can you implement it into a practice? And you just nailed it. You could use it as part of a warm-up, depending on the weight and your experience. You could use it insert it into a workout, and you could most definitely use it as a cool down and on recovery days, because it could flush out some of that lactic acid in your upper body. So yeah, you nailed it. Yeah.
And that's what we do. And I'm always searching, and that's where we're searching into more knowledge and stuff and how we can get things done. And I think now people, like you said, a lot of individuals are seeing the importance of this. Now you're seeing a lot of this equipment being made and manufactured that were hard to find. Yes. Indian Club US, you probably find them in an antique shop, but for a long time.
Now there's a lot of manufacturers. Yesterday, I was actually being interviewed for a national magazine in India, a newspaper called The Hindu. And I was speaking to the journalist. Her name is Sonali. And she had Harbert on, the shredded farmer, who's Nathan. He's in India. You're already familiar with Harbert. I think they're going to interview my mentor, Paul. But I'm the only female that is featured in this article. And I think that's it's important too, that people could see that women are also capable of utilizing these tools, and that there's a benefit and a crossover for us too, especially as we age. Because if you have a stronger grip, you have a stronger heart, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you see the older martial artists, and I'm not talking boxers. I'm talking about the older martial artists, especially those that come from China and India. They still have flexibility because of the exercises. Oh, yes. They're doing the whole body. Some of the ones here, they've already torn their hips and so on and so forth. There's something wrong, but they're back to those conditioning exercises that they've never let go. And I think
Absolutely.
These methods are one of those that you see that need to be kept. And also
Agreed.
There is a sporting entity of it that like we've seen over there, that how many you can do. And I think
in Varanasi. Yeah.
If that hits here, I think you get a lot of people that are also going to, the strength enthusiasts are going to be saying, you know what, this we can see this in the future.
I competed at the Arnold's Classic in Ohio in mace competition, but I was fairly new at the time to higher volume mace, and that was in 2016. I did like 5 mace competitions. I think now, reflecting on it 9 years later, I've definitely built up the practice and the skill to maybe be able to attempt it and be more accomplished at it than I was then. But it was fun to be in that initial group of women that were starting to, get on stage in front of a lot of people watching and trying it out. And it was an awesome experience to learn from.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. That's what we need. And I think that's what people need. People need to have their minds open, and trainers like you that are out there are developing people to have a open mind of what's out there for you to do. Like you said, these exercises can help you build off or make other exercises that you're already doing, the bench press, better. That's what we need to do.
And I think there's a way to kind of honor the tradition and the origin of the tool. And I think that's one of the reasons why I was just interviewed for that article, because she wanted to connect with people also outside of India and see, wow, like now that the West was exposed to these tools and through social media, people have been sharing, it's now coming back to India because it's a dying practice in certain parts. And I just had yesterday, one of my Zircone posts, Bastani from Iran just went viral. So it's, I think it's last time I got like, I don't know, maybe like 12,000 or over that new followers overnight, which is always like a lot to digest when it happens. But, I'm wearing the traditional pants, I'm using the traditional music, and mainly my main focus is to show the skill and the technique in that, even though I may not be from the culture, I see a lot of value in ancient sports and the dedication it takes to learn the techniques and develop the skills to be able to perform it and to progress with it. And I always try to, honor where it comes from, and also to say, how much it impacts me and how it builds strength in mind and body. And I do think that people could benefit from these tools.
Absolutely. You mentioned something that they're new tools now from the old world, but they're actually old world tools, because when you look when you look at old boxing gyms, they had Indian clubs, they had kettlebells, they had Atlas balls, they had that type of strength. It was seen there. And I have pictures of the professors in France, and there's Indian clubs and what looks like a jory in the, or one of the options.
Could have been in Mudgar. It could have been in, if it's not a large jory, it could be a Mudgar or Mugdal from India that they had. I think definitely modern bodybuilding, that's kind of what pushed out some of the tools, but they're having like a resurgence. Indian clubs were included. Well, the British adaptation was included in, the Olympics twice, which is kind of cool. And there's definitely, I think, more interest in the tools. And like you said, people like yourself who are doing a podcast and having people like me and others on helps to spread the word and make it become more accessible. Or if it piques your interest, why not go and try, but obviously try safely, learn from somebody, get connected so that you don't injure yourself.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's happening now, especially with you can actually start learning. Before, people didn't know what it was. They picked up a book. They try to mimic the patterns.
It's hard to learn from books sometimes, some of these patterns.
And then all of a sudden you're getting hurt. You're not feeling the energy, because that was basically what it was. And you go back as a reference, and you're not feeling the energy of how the teacher was teaching you. You're not seeing everybody else do it. And you're trying to implement something that you think is there. You're assuming. And you can actually be hurting yourself in the process and then actually produce.
One thing that I think is very common, especially with like people that I've met through the years who are martial artists who are interested in picking up a gata, is you need to already have a adequate range of motion to be able to swing safely. So oftentimes people will pick up a mace with a bum shoulder and say, I'm going to swing this so that I could get my shoulder healthy. Most of the time, though, if something is inhibiting your movement, that'll throw your technique off, and you could come into issues with your elbow tendonitis or tendonitis in your wrist or issues with your forearm. And there's a lot of accessory mobility work that people could, get exposed to if they work with somebody that has experience. And, I've actually had people start with a stick mobility stick or a wooden dowel, and work up over a period of time to swinging load. And that's where, like having some guidance is very helpful. And at least there's more tools out there for people now.
Absolutely. You are absolutely correct. I agree with you 100%. And you need to do that. Like if somebody wanted to touch base with you, what I want to learn. You do have workshops or online and stuff like that.
I do. I mean, I have an online course with my mentor, Paul Bakovinsky. That is on my link page on my Instagram, and also on his website, which is Indian Clubs Australia. And we have an Indian Club intro course. We also have a Mace intro course. We're going to be going and collaborating on 2 workshops, March and April of next year, one here in Massachusetts, one in Canada. And the week that we have in between, we're going to film a second course, an extension off of the Indian clubs and an extension off of what we did in 2020. We were supposed to go on tour, and literally the pandemic hit. We were in St. Louis and on a plane with like a dozen people, and we're like, oh shit, we're not going to England anymore. So we basically hunkered down and we filmed our course, and now we're going to add to it 4 years later. So I'm really excited about that, or almost 5 years later.
That's beautiful. The pandemic did a lot of damage to a lot of
it was rough. Yeah. But now in-person workshops are coming back. And because I have a family and I've got a teenager and I work full-time with clients in person, because that's my main business, I do feel fortunate for the workshops that I do. You know, I'm not on a very large scale like some people. So it's very admirable. I wish I could pull everything together to do that, but I also like the in-person experience, because I really like that connection with that, and that tactility of being able to work with people in person. Though online's beneficial too.
You know, the same thing, like with Savad, we had a huge, we always had seminars once a month,
Yes.
twice a month. In the pandemic, we were going to Japan, we were doing some other stuff in Brazil, we were coming back all of a sudden everything just stopped and everything just crashed. And now,
Wild ride.
but those that searched, those that continued, or you know, that's how we all got connected, and that's how everything is moving. And that's the way it is. Those that did not stop are moving now.
No,
thank you for that.
We got to keep on keeping on.
Absolutely. And I was going to ask you, we don't have any of the clubs here. How did the buying and collecting? There's basically a collection.
Yes.
All the meals and everything else come into play. The shields. How were you getting them? You know, where and from? Now it's we can get them in India, but there's a lot of stuff that.
So like when people reach out to me online, I typically have like a resource list that I have saved on my phone for equipment. And I have equipment from Iran, from India, from Europe, you know, in England, Canada. Like I have a new pair of Persian mill that returned by Saeed, who Persian Woodcraft, I believe is his Instagram handle. And there's also like Body Mind Fit, Peter in England. There is Stapleford Indian clubs. There is Indian clubs Brazil. Indian clubs Portugal with Helder, and his work is amazing. So, you know, I have stuff from Pratier. I've got stuff from the Great Indian Workout, the traditional Indian exercise. I think that's his Instagram handle. So sometimes people like, I'll travel and grab equipment along the way. I'll save up. I've been collecting for years. Sometimes people send me equipment and ask me to review it, to try it out. Sometimes it's a gift, you know, because of having exposure to people and a following. But I believe that all these tools, and I've had friends that have handmade stuff for me. Like a lot of my gatas are handmade from friends. But I believe like my collection continued to grow because once you try it, you realize that like each piece has its own kind of personality based on its dimensions, based on the type of material that is used, the weight. And you just, if you're a movement enthusiast, and you're like, whoo, this provides different feedback to the body. And I just love it. So it's like something that I really, really enjoy. And I feel like a lot of pride when I look in my living room, because it's the corner of our living room. We live in a small, you know, condo. My husband is very supportive and very patient. And it fills my cup up. I just feel very connected to these tools and the practices. And I feel very grateful for the support that I've received especially from people from India and Iran.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. See that connection from across, and it's great. You know, sometimes they call, how you all doing, and so on and so forth. And that's just the way it is. That connectivity. I think that's what happened after.
Absolutely. I think movement is its own language, and sometimes despite our differences or our backgrounds, you know, it has a powerful way to connect us, and it's something to appreciate for sure.
Absolutely. And hopefully we can get you out here sometime next year.
I love that. Definitely down.
We'll get it going. My wife wants, you know, of course she works out as well, and I think it'll be great. I think showing this and getting this out there to individuals, how can I put it? You don't have to go to a gym or a school to do this. You can actually do it. And if you're taught correctly, you can continue going and doing it by yourself. It's a self, how can I say, a self connection with yourself, working out at all times if you want to actually.
It's a very rewarding journey. That's absolutely right. And that's why the journey continues.
And what else do you have new? What other tools? What are your favorite ones? Let's talk about the tools from Persia. You have the meals and you have a shield.
Yes.
And what?
I would say, like, unrelated to the zirconium practice, kettlebells are what were the gateway. Like I said, I really enjoy swinging Persian meal. I just immediately relax, even though sometimes it's so challenging. But I like to be challenged, and I just feel really connected to the movement and the patterns. I get like a sort of a Zen kind of meditative state. And I also like the strength that it provides. I had somebody comment yesterday, oh, it's just momentum. That doesn't require any strength. And I'm like, dude, try to pick up a club and humble yourself with it, and especially learning proper technique. It's definitely a full body exercise. Yes, it's more upper body focused, but I really like working with my hands, and I like the challenge of kind of making something heavy feel light. Like, when you're doing it correctly, even though it's challenging, it feels seamless. So it always keeps me going back. Like, I really enjoy the Persian mill a lot. I love all the club swinging styles that I have because I've got a wide array. And the Shenna board, the reason I like the Shenna is because of the grip and leverage that it provides. And I feel like you get more full body activation from being able to grip versus having your palms like flat on the floor. And that little bit of height, it kind of like with like half moon push up, I almost feel like it's similar, like being able to grip and like doing like a pull up. You could really feel more connected to your mid back. I hope I answered that. Yeah.
Yes. And how about the shields?
I do have a pair. I really enjoy them. They're a little light, and they were like training saying. So I'm talking to Saeed in Canada about him making me a pair. He just started making them. They have to be done correctly because it's really challenging with the dimensions. Because of tariffs and sanctions, it's really hard to get equipment directly from Iran. And I know there's other vendors like Persian Yoga and a couple others, but then you have to be mindful of how long it will take to ship, or what like the taxes are and shipping costs. So, a lot of these tools are definitely an investment. And that's why, there's a couple of videos on how to make your own Shenna that are online, how to make your own gata in relation to India, with either bamboo or wood and concrete, and making your own as you already have. But I would say when you start investing in the tools, because especially if they're hand turned, you take on kind of like a bit of the appreciation of the person that made it. I feel really connected to a lot of my tools that are hand turned.
Yes. No, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. For one, it's been a pleasure. I want you to continue with that journey and keep teaching others this wonderful.
Oh, thank you. It was really nice talking to you, Paul.
And for everybody out there, you all stay safe, be safe, and God bless you all. Until next time, much peace.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Have you ever wondered about what happens in a martial arts studio? Well, you start right away by setting goals, building determination, gaining focus, building skills, all while becoming more fit, gaining confidence, and learning self-defense. Buitron Academy is a school where attitude meets aptitude. So give us a call at 956-401-4868.